Here's what structuring a 15-hour work week can look like for you and how you can implement this into your own business. Hello, sunshine, and welcome back to the Gold Biz Podcast with me, your host, Rachel Traxler. Today, I have with me Brittnie Renee, and she is talking all about how she structures her work weeks to be 15 hours, how you can have some strategy behind it, how you can have some mindset about it, how you can maximize your productivity during those times. And this is a really good one, so make sure that you grab your notebooks. But before we get started, make sure that if you haven't, that you leave a review on the Gold Biz Podcast so that I can see what you're loving the most about the podcast and then also share the love in return. But I like to dive right into it. So grab your notebooks. Here we go. Okay, Brittnie, I'm so excited to have you on. Welcome, welcome.
Hi.
I'm excited for this topic because I feel like, I don't know, as photographers, entrepreneurs, all that stuff, we are just like working around the clock constantly. It's hard to shut our brains off. It's hard to find structure in days to work less. So I'm excited to talk to you a little bit more about this topic. But can you just kick us off, walk us through like your typical day or week or work day and like how you structure your time to ensure like you're most productive and efficient?
Yeah. So when I first started doing photography, or not when I first started, but when I became a mom and I got real serious about photography, my husband used to joke that I worked more than he did. And that's not why we started doing photography, right? We didn't want to be these people who worked around the clock. So it was this dream of like having more free time. And I quickly realized that I was burning the candle at both ends, as they say. So I knew I had to figure this out real fast because I just couldn't keep going the way that I was. And I didn't want my little babies to grow up and me be like, oh, I missed it. I am blessed at this point in my life because I remember how hard it was having babies. And my youngest one is 4 going on 5. So I am out of that, like the drowning phase of the babies. And I know how hard that is. But now my daughter, she goes to preschool a couple of days a week. And so I am able to get a lot of work done during those 12 hours that she's gone, 12 or 15 hours that she's gone. So I try to keep as much work in those times as possible. So that way I can be present for my family and my home during the other times of days. And that's not saying that I don't work when they're home, but I try to keep it to tasks that they don't bother me. Like I can edit all day long with their like jabbering in my ear because it doesn't take a lot of like mental space. Like if I was writing an email, I couldn't possibly write an email when someone's talking at me. And I know that I'm going to be a lot more angry if I'm trying to write an email or a blog post when the kids are home than if I'm just trying to edit. And so I've had to like balance these tasks. Like what tasks can I do when they're home? What do I need to prioritize for when they're not home? So being able to be either present or at least just not yelling at my kids when they're home because I'm frustrated, because that's the first thing I do when I get frustrated is I just get real snappy. So,
oh my goodness. I can relate to that so much. It's like finding that balance of what tasks do I need to do when I'm just alone and have that alone time versus like what can I do mindlessly or like tedious things where if I have some extra noise or someone's trying to talk to me, it doesn't bother me as much or something. But you do have to find that balance because it's overwhelming and overstimulating if you're trying to work and you've got little ones needing you and people asking you questions and stuff. It's a lot. So it's just all big juggling balance act.
Yeah. And since we work at home a lot, right? Like we leave for sessions, but we do the bulk of our back end work at home. It's really easy for our personal lives and our business lives to merge together. And so another thing that I found was that I don't do chores when the kids are sleeping or when they're gone. Like I prioritize those work tasks because again, like it's a mindless task. I can unload the dishwasher and fold clothes when the kids are home and it's not gonna stress me out. And so let's say that someone has like little babies at home and you're always folding laundry when the babies are asleep, right? Instead of like working your business. And then you're staying up until like midnight trying to get work done. For me, at least, that wouldn't strike a good balance. I need to do those chores when they're awake and they're home, or when I need to reserve that quiet time for work specific activities.
Absolutely. It's like that phrase, like don't do what you can't do when the baby's sleeping or like
Oh,
the kids are sleeping.
yeah.
Like only do things that you can't do when they're awake. That helps a ton. I love that too. And what kind of like strategies or tools do you use to kind of like streamline things, like streamline workflows and maximize that productivity like during, because you do have limited time, and especially if you're wanting to structure a shorter amount of work week, like a 15-hour work week. Like what do you use to streamline to make that happen and cut down on that time?
Knowing what I have to do when I sit down well, I don't work on Mondays usually. On Tuesday morning, when I sit down to work, I need to know exactly what I need to be doing. And I can't be sitting there floundering. Like, have you ever tried to do a puzzle without looking at the reference photo? It's impossible,
Yes,
right? It takes a
that
long time. So like you just dump everything out and you're like, okay, let's go now. But no, I need that map looking at this puzzle piece. What's it called? The reference photo. Told you I get really tongue tied. Look at the reference photo. So I need to have something that keeps me on track with what I'm doing. And so I love my planner that keeps me on task. So every week I brain dump what I need to get done. And then I also just have specific days that I'm focusing on certain tasks. So that way, every Tuesday, I always know that it's marketing, and every Wednesday, it's monthly task, and every Thursday, it's blogging or podcasting or something like that. So I have like specific things that I know going into it that are structured, and then also structuring the little tidbits through my planner and knowing exactly what I have to do and when I have to do it during those work times.
Sure. So what I'm hearing is you kind of day block and
Yeah.
then you take specific tasks and kind of like have them organized in here are like the bigger tasks that I need to work on these days. And then the smaller tedious things get filtered out throughout the day or throughout the week, just knowing what you have to do.
Yeah. So just to give you a quick example of that is today is Thursday that we're recording this, and those are usually my podcast days. That's why we're here.
Same. Thursday.
Oh,
Love
that's perfect. Our
Yes.
schedules lined
Yep,
up like that.
I do the same.
But that doesn't mean I'm not going to do other things. It's just generally I need to focus on podcast stuff today. Otherwise, I'll find myself not getting it aired in time and not done. And then I'm all behind, and then I'm struggling, and then I'm having trouble keeping up with things. But before we hopped onto this call, I was doing some Pinterest blog stuff that my VA requested me to check for her. That's not necessarily podcast stuff, but it is those little filler things that don't necessarily have days that go with it. So it's not that I'm only focusing on one thing. It's that today this has to happen, and then as well as all the other little things have to happen as well. And I have it all written down in my planner, so that way I can go tick, 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 tick. Feels really good. Like nothing is more satisfying than checking off a to-do list.
Honestly, what is? It's just like a little dopamine hit. Like,
Do you sometimes write things down just so you can cross it off? Oh yeah,
always, literally always. I always have notebooks. So good. Like you said, going in with a plan. So if day blocking is something that seems appealing to you, that's what I like to do. Like I said, Thursdays, podcast days, Wednesdays, coaching days, Tuesdays are my like miscellaneous days, Mondays, marketing. And so it's like having those days, like you said, some things will come up where today is your podcast day, but you are doing other tasks. But that's where you almost have that running to-do list to fall back on. But just going in to your weeks or days with a plan, it helps so much. Like you said, doing a puzzle without the reference. Or have you ever started a task just like brain dumping? Brain dumping is different than actually completing it. And sometimes when you don't have it set ahead of you, you're just going to be like in that brainstorming mode versus actually like accomplishing it.
I don't know why, but when I keep everything in my head, it feels a lot more overwhelming. I'm like, I have so much to do because I'm trying to like keep it all in there. But then when I put it out on paper, I'm like, well, I have a lot to do, but now it's more manageable. Like, oh, this task doesn't have to happen for a couple days, so I really don't have to focus on it. So then once you get it on paper, you can prioritize it a little bit better. Or you're like, I don't actually have to do that right now. Like, I don't feel guilty about continuously moving a task to the next week and the next week and next week. That means it just wasn't important, and I had other important things. Other important things to focus on this week rather than that task that I keep pushing off. So that's like a clear sign to me that like this isn't a priority. This is not a priority. So it's okay.
Yeah. And that's a good kind of like lead into my next question for you is just in terms of like maximizing like your efficiency and all that stuff. Can you share some ways that you can like effectively like delegate tasks or outsource certain aspects of your business? Like you were talking about your VA, something and what can be prioritized that way? Just again, circling back to the big topic of to try to work 15-hour work weeks, 20-hour, whatever you want to do, cutting back on time. How do you look at delegating that or any techniques for that?
So I really love time audits or even just like a really, really big detailed brain dump, because I know some people are like, a time audit? That sounds really overwhelming. But for me, it was very eye-opening to see all the tasks that I was doing. And basically what you do for a time audit is you just sit down, maybe set an alarm every hour, every day for 5 to 7 days and write down everything that you did. It's not what you need to do. It's what have you done so far? So you're just like looking back. It shows you two things. It shows you, one, how much you're actually doing. And two, it shows you maybe where you might be wasting time, like scrolling on my phone for a really long time. I have no problem. Like, it is okay that you can sit down and veg out and stare at the wall or scroll on your phone. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. But whenever you're finding that you're doing it all the time and you're like, maybe I shouldn't do it quite so much. Like, if you are feeling like it's not okay, then it's not okay. But I have no problem with that. I think we all need some veg out time like that.
Yes.
But then also a time audit also shows you like when you're naturally doing certain things. Like I find that I was always running errands in the morning. Like, that was when I was most ready for errands, and I would be more ready to clean the house in the afternoons. And I was just, there's like this sweet spot that I would just naturally work. And it's when my kids are home, it's that sweet spot now. But a time audit really just like eye opens and shows you things about your day. And then from there, you can kind of start like breaking down those tasks a little bit more. So for example, posting on social media. It's like, you need to do your content planning, right? But that doesn't, a lot more goes into content planning than just posting something on Instagram and writing a caption, right? Like, I know you and I are both like, we like Instagram for what it is, but also we put our efforts into something else. So I hate that I'm using this as an example, but it's the easiest one to break down. So you need to know, first of all, I have to brainstorm what it is that I am trying to do this month. Like, what is my plan? What is my marketing? Like, what am I focusing on? Maybe it's in-home newborn sessions because it's cold outside. So we need to come inside and do in-home newborn sessions. Okay, what do I need people to know about in-home newborn sessions? And then I start brainstorming content prompts. So I have content prompts that I kind of start getting ideas from. One would be solve a problem. So what problem can I solve for my potential newborn clients? Well, maybe they're not sure if their house is going to be clean enough. So I would write to them like, why you don't need to worry about your house being clean. We're just going to shove it all in a corner and no one's ever was going to know it all. Maybe I share a helpful tool. Maybe another problem people have is that they don't know what to wear for their photos. And so my helpful tool would be, I use Style and Select to help you get ready for your session. And I talk about that. And so these are all just like various content prompts that I can feed into for the one marketing thing I'm focusing on that month. And what I like to do is I like to write my content first. So I'll go and I'll use those prompts and write out the captions. I like to write out my content first. And then once I have my content written out, I like to go through and find images that match with it. And then I'll go in and I'll schedule it. My task list would look like content brainstorming, content prompt content writing the captions, finding images, scheduling them, whatever platform I use to schedule them. So then you would go through and do that with every single thing that you do. You would really start itemizing it out, or you can consider it like a SOP or a standard operating procedure. Mm-hmm. And then from there, you can start to find things that you're able to delegate out to somebody else, right? So like, okay, well, I like to write the content, but I don't want to go through and find the images and schedule them myself. Like, I have such a hard time. I hate every image that I look at. I know I look back at images. I'm like, oh, it's not as good as I thought it was. I'm like getting my head too much with those creative people. So maybe that's something that I want to pass off to my VA. So I say, go into my galleries, look for images that go along with the prompts, schedule them for me, and just put it out there into the world. So that would be how I would go about outsourcing things. I think you really need to have like a hard, clear grasp about what you're doing in your business in order to tell someone else how they can help you. You know what I mean?
I'm interrupting my own episode to give you a quick glimpse into my signature coaching program created for established photographers wanting to double to quadruple their prices, book their highest package, and bring in inquiries consistently. This is my high-level container of go-to photographers who are making huge waves in the industry. And the biggest difference in this program is that we get a full 12 months together for deep dive transformation, weekly coaching call support, 4 coaches in the program to deep dive into specific topics, and a content retreat all included in one program. And I always say, if you can book one extra wedding from your year in the program together, you're going to see your ROI. And it's just the weekly norm wins for my students. So I'm fully confident that you're going to be able to do that and way, way more. And this is an application, phone call, and acceptance process only type of program. So if you are curious if this is the right next steps for you to just blow up your business this year, you can fill out the application at racheltraxler.com/apply or get the link in the show notes. I'll be in touch shortly after you fill it out so that we can talk through together if this is the right fit for you. I'm very honest with people and I want this to be a great fit for everyone involved. That's just my heart behind the way I do this process. And I also think that's why my students just see so much success in this program. So don't just be an information consumption overload this year. I want you to be an action taker and start implementing change into your business. So again, if this feels aligned to you, fill out the application at racheltraxler.com/apply to apply for my Passion to Profit coaching program. That makes total sense. Like figuring out, like you said, if you want to let go of like creative control somewhere, or you want that creative control and you aren't good at this. I always say like with outsourcing stuff too, like look at the stuff that's taking you the most time.
Mhm.
Also the things that are feeling most draining to you too.
Yeah.
'Cause, like those are good things to outsource.
What I learned last fall when I timed myself doing the task. So I already knew what I had already done the time audit and stuff like that. But then I actually like sat down and really timed these tasks out. And I found that the most time consuming thing that I was doing was culling my images. And I also loathe culling images. And I don't need advice on how to cull faster. Okay. I just don't like it. Period.
Yes, agreed.
So I outsourced it. And that saved me like hours and hours and hours a week because I knew that this is something that I'm slow at, or this is something that I just don't enjoy doing. And so I was able to outsource that to an editor.
Yes, stuff like that. And it can be anything in your business too. And that helps a ton. That right there cuts out so many hours of working. What do you like overall, just thinking about how you've been able to cut your work weeks down to 15-hour work weeks? What do you think has been the biggest impact, or like what do you think has been the biggest shift that you've made to be able to do that?
I think the biggest shift in doing that is, like I said, knowing exactly what I need to do. So I'm not sitting there spinning my wheels trying to figure it out. And then just dedicating certain times to it. So if I were to say I have all week to get something done, I'm going to be a lot slower at doing it. But whenever I give myself dedicated work blocks to get it done, like I have 3 hours on Tuesday, 3 hours on Wednesday, and 3 hours on Thursday to get things done. I'm going to work as fast and as efficiently as I possibly can to get as much done during those times as possible. If you only have 1 hour during nap time, you know what you're going to do when you sit down to do it. You're going to get a lot more done than if you're like, oh, I'll work whenever I think I have time. Like, no, you need to be like, I know as soon as that baby goes down for a nap, I'm getting my computer out and I'm getting X, Y, and Z done. Maybe you don't finish it. And that's okay. The next time when that baby goes down for a nap again, or your husband gets home, or babysitter comes over, or whatever it is, that's whenever I'm going to sit down and continue picking up exactly where I was, and then I'm going to continue on with my list. So I think just having a plan was game changer for me.
Yes. And I always say too, and I've said this so many times, of like, I don't know what I did before I became a mom. Like, I don't know what I did with my time. It's like, I can get done in 1 hour, 2 hours of nap time, what I got done in a week before, because it's like, you have that time. The second you shut that door for them to go for a nap, you are going to work. And that was a huge shift for me when I became a mom. I feel like moms just unlock this whole new productivity level. But if you're not a mom yet, or you're not like in that stage of life, it almost, I think, what works for me now too is just setting deadlines for yourself. Like you were saying, being like keeping the promises to yourself too. Because if you say, okay, I'm going to work on this from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. today. And then you put it in your calendar, you set yourself up for it, and then you don't do it. You're just breaking that promise with yourself and like breaking trust with yourself. And that's just going to continue on that cycle. So it's like, if you can schedule it in your calendar, commit to it, you're committing to yourself. You're making that commitment for your clients to better your business. I just feel like you start to build that trust with yourself when you start to actually set some times and deadlines for it.
It's a mindset shift as well. So, no one, when we work for ourselves, there's no one over our shoulder being like, you better get that done. You better get that done. So it's so easy to be like, oh, I'll just save it for tomorrow. I'll just save it for tomorrow. But when you change your mindset, it's not that you have to do XYZ in your business. It's that if I do this now, then it's going to serve me later. If I set up my SEO on my website now, then I am going to be booking clients and not having to be posting on social media every single day. Like, you need to train yourself to know that this is not a punishment, whatever it is that you're doing that you don't want to be doing or that you just are too tired to be doing. It is serving future you, and future you is going to look back and thank you for holding yourself accountable to doing the things that you said you wanted to do.
Yes, exactly. And I feel like that's just a part that comes with being a business owner, like running a business, keeping those promises to yourself for yourself and for your clients. And it just overall just helps really well. So I think that's a really good point to make, it is that big mindset shift into that. And that kind of helps too when you pull in other aspects of like, I'm helping better for my clients, bettering myself for someone else. That always motivates me. I've always been motivated by bringing other people into it. Like, I'm bettering myself for my teammates. I'm bettering myself for my husband, for my kids, for my clients. Like, that always helps me, just if bringing other people and having that mindset of I'm serving other people. So I'm going to do it to help others. So yeah, just whatever works for you that way. But I love it, Brittnie. What kind of like final piece of advice do you have for the listeners? Just like anything on this topic, just to help condense time, be more productive, work shorter work weeks, literally anything. Could be something we talked about, something we didn't talk about.
One, I think that if you are a completely unorganized person with your time, which that was me, like I was bottom of the barrel, like sobbing on the ground. I had no time management skills just like 2 years ago, but just starting with one thing. And my one thing that made me better with time management skills was resetting my kitchen in the evening before my kids went to bed. That was like the biggest game changer in my entire, and people were like, okay, but really like it set the ball in motion for everything. So start with one thing, maybe something that like when you wake up tomorrow, you don't have to have all of a sudden be working 15-hour work weeks or less. If that's what you want to do, it's going to take time, and you're gonna have to take steps. Like, what is the first thing that I can do? What is the second thing? Okay, I got that down. Now, like, what else can I do to help get my time under control for work or for home or for everything? Because our personal time, like we said, bleeds into our work time. So if I sit down to work, but I look over there and I see a pile of laundry, I'm going to get distracted by it, right? So I need to make sure I prioritize the laundry yesterday instead of during this time when I'm supposed to be sitting down to work. And then also the other like quick tips to work faster would be automating, batching, outsourcing, and then just getting rid of things that aren't really serving you anymore.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good too. Just all over, like basically an all over audit and figuring out what works for you too, of can I work with this, or does this need to be done before I can like efficiently be working? And everyone works a little bit different that way. So I love your idea of just doing a time audit, see what's taking you most time, see what tasks you don't feel like are bringing you joy and loving, and maybe looking at outsourcing some of those, and just making promises with yourself and scheduling and day blocking and all that, so you can stay consistent. And like you said, keeping those promises to yourself too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. And I always ask to people, I end with this question: what's currently bringing you joy?
Oh, what's currently bringing me joy?
Yes, it can be anything.
Oh, the spring is in the air right now.
Yes.
I love when the weather starts to warm. Where do you live?
I'm in Wisconsin, and it is
so it's not warm for you.
No, it's freakishly warm for this time of year.
Okay.
It feels like spring, and I'm so with you on that. It just brings this whole level of just like joy, and something's in the air. It's amazing. Yes, that is bringing me so much joy as well.
It's wonderful. There's one more thing. So we touched on that I use my planner, but we didn't mention that I made this planner.
Yes,
It's a
tell
planner
us
that I
about
made.
it. Tell us about the planner.
It's a planner that I made it started off as a planner for photographers and it turned into a planner for creatives, and it's a workbook in a way that teaches people who are not good at time management to learn how to use your time better, and I wanted it to be like open-ended for people to use it creatively in their own way. And I have a 15% off code for your listeners.
Amazing.
It's Rachel 15. So if anyone wants to go look at the Capture the Chaos Planner, I have a video walkthrough. You can see what it's all about. And we also have a community with other people who use the planner, and we talk all the time in it. We're sharing how we use the planner and what tips are making me better, what everyone else shares, what tips are making them better, and they're sharing how they're using it. And it's just really, really an awesome community to just have other people who are like, I'm a mess too. Like, let's get unmessy together.
We're all a mess, let's be honest. I love that though. That's so sweet of you. I'll make sure to put that below. And why don't you tell us all where we can find you too?
You can find me. I hang out on the Instagram under Brittnie Renee _co. And my name is spelled weird. So I'll spell my name for you. BRITTNIE RENEE _co. And then I have my little corner of the internet, BrittnieRenee.com, same spelling. And that's also where you can find the planner if you wanted to look at it as well.
Amazing. I love it all. We'll make sure to link it. But thank you so much for coming on. I love this. Let's all get unmessy together. I love it.
That's going to be my new tagline. Let's get unmessy.
Right? I
I
love
like
it.
it. Thank you for that.
Yes, you're welcome. Spinning ideas.
That's what we're
And there you have it. I really hope this episode was helpful for you, just to figure out where you can time audit for yourself, where you can make those changes, maybe where you can outsource, where you can delegate more time, and just have that mindset of being more productive and staying true and making those promises, keeping those promises to yourself, and becoming more productive in running the business that you want to. So if you haven't already, make sure you screenshot and share to your stories and tag me at Rachel Traxler so that I can see which episodes you're loving the most, and then also share the love in return. But thank you so much for listening. To today's episode. I appreciate you so much. And as always, keep shining, and we'll see you next time.